Hello everybody, welcome back to the Tales of Retrospective, the best source for tales of anything and everything related to, well, of course, the Tales of franchise. I am your awesome Tales of host, William Morris.
And I'm your co-host, Eugene Morris.
Not yet.
Now last time, we explained to you the history of Tales of Destiny and its success, as well as cameo appearances and so on. But looking back, there have been some details that we may or may not have gone over or missed. So before we move on to the story of Tales of Destiny, let's do a quick recap.
After the success of Tales of Fantasia, Wolf Team and Namco had begun working on the new Tales game for the next generation console, the PlayStation. You all know that much. And it's well known that stories for video games, like movies, always go through quite a few rough drafts before the final version is completed and executed.
Through some of our sources, we managed to find what could have possibly been one of the early drafts of Tales of Destiny, but it was severely rewritten. Now, there were quite a few changes, but it did have some pretty interesting ideas.
We unfortunately cannot confirm 100% if any of what's presented here is true, but we felt it'd be better to address it instead of ignoring it. Now, according to the page, it says it's a rough translation from something called the Tales of CHRONICLE, which, sad to say, we haven't found out what that is exactly. With effort searching, we couldn't really say for sure. The first change according to this draft is that the main character's main name, Fen Aileron. Yet we know him today as Ston Aileron. We also know that in the beginning of the game, Ston is found as a stowaway on the Draconis flying aircraft. However, in the actual game, it's not really understood why he was there in the first place, save for trying to find a way back to his hometown. Yet here, in the draft, stated that Finn was trying to find lens to sell them for money, which can be done in the game, yet when it's brought up by Ston, he kind of acts as if it's a new thing that he's never seen. Probably for the player's sake, so it could be explained to us. Ston's in-game purpose, according to what he says, is that he's traveling the world hoping to become rich and famous along the way.
Now, there were a lot of subtle changes that were changed, and also too many things that unfortunately would take too much time for even us to be able to explain to you. However, you can go in the description below and it will have a link to the rough draft if you choose to look at it. Subtle changes being that of the mana tree still being an addition to the story, as well as there being an exclusion of a few characters that were not in the final product. But what are you going to do?
Meanwhile, we also forgot to mention that Motoi Sakuraba, the composer for Tales of Fantasia, also returned to provide the music for Tales of Destiny as well.
Forgot to mention? Or did we just want to use that joke again? You decide.
Okay, Tales of Destiny, like we mentioned before. It begins with our main character, Ston Aileron, stowing away in the cargo holds of the Draconis aircraft. It's basically a plane shaped like a dragon. Safe to say, we know where Kaiba got this idea from. Ston, age 19, is a commoner by class. He enjoys taking walks as a pastime and going on adventures. He's got a meddlesome personality and has a weakness for girls. He's also pretty country and not the brightest crayon in the Crayola box, but he does have a good heart. Ston is found sleeping in the deckhands of the Draconis. Unfortunately, these guys don't take too kindly to stowaways, so he's immediately met with a beatdown for hiding. He's then taken to the captain, who instantly suspects that he's stowed away in order to steal the special cargo that they're transporting. Yet the captain cleverly neglects to say what the cargo is. Ston pleads that he doesn't know anything about it, nor snuck aboard to steal anything, and after another brutal beatdown, the captain begins to believe him, and starts putting him to work mopping the deck of the Draconis as punishment for his crime. Suddenly, things get worse, as the Draconis is swiftly ambushed by flying monsters and beasts. The fiends quickly start killing the crew, sending Ston into a panic. Thinking fast, he makes his escape and hides in one of the storage rooms. Save for the moment, Ston begins hearing a voice in his head calling to him from the back of the room.
As fate would have it, Ston finds that special cargo the now deceased captain mentioned before, which turns out to be a special looking sword that is mounted to the wall with chains. The voice in Ston's head reveals to him that he's listening to the voice from within the sword itself. The weapon also makes known to Ston that his name is Dimlos, and he is called a Swordian. A Swordian, in short, is a sentient blade imbued with the personality and memory of a military figure from the Aether Wars that happened a very long time ago. But more about that would be found out later. Dimlos explains to Ston that they both need to get out of Dodge, as the monsters no doubt came for him. Ston agrees, and they both fight their way to the escape shuttle on the Draconis. But before launching off, one of the beasts managed to get a good swing in, damaging the craft as it took off, forcing Ston and his Sordian Dimlos to spiral out of control, where they would end up crashing into the snowy river. Ston almost at the brink of death, Dimlos tries to get his attention and has Ston grip him tightly and shout his name so that his life could be saved. Successful in escaping a watery grave, Ston passes out, deep in the mountains of Fandaria. Thankfully, before hypothermia managed to sink in, Ston awakens in a cozy cabin that only I could dream to afford. Wondering how he got there, Ston is approached by another individual. Enter Gar Kelvin, known as Woodrow in Japan. Age 23, Gar is the calm type who rarely if ever gets excited about anything. His favorite pastime is traveling alone, and he enjoys silence and solitude. Given that he hangs in the snow, I wonder if he has a fortress of solitude somewhere. His major weak point is communicating with others?
Now you think I'm making this up, but I'm not. That's what it says on his character card. See?
Gar explains to Ston that he saw him fall from the sky and saved his life after he crashed into the snow. Concerned about the flying dragon being attacked, Gar seems curious about their conversation, but then gets interrupted from the elder of the cabin. Alba comes forth concerned that his granddaughter has not returned from the outside and needs help to find her. Ston jumps at the chance to find her to repay them for saving his life, so he and Gar head off through the mountains to locate her. Luckily, she hadn't wandered too far. Meet Chelsea Torn, 14 years old and the granddaughter of Master Alba. Allegedly, she enjoys reading and maintains a cheerful personality, possibly to avoid her past. Gar explains to her that Alba wants her back to sew his pants. And naturally she gets offended by this, mostly because she knows he treats her like a child. They all go back and everything is fine and well. Ston said he's trying to get to the city of Darelshed. Regrettably, it's really far from its current position. Gar explains he has some serious traveling to get there, but he will accompany him as far as the town of Janos, where he will go his own way on business.
After Gar leaves, Dimlos finally speaks up after staying silent all this time, and details Ston that he doesn't trust Gar because he understood that Gar knows of his existence. As a Sordian, that is, and that the knowledge shouldn't be common. Ston is reluctant on hating on Gar, though is curious why it's a big deal since he himself knows about Dimlos too. Dimlos briefly states that Ston is special but requires more training to understand, and that from this point on he will only speak when absolutely necessary. Probably so Ston doesn't attract attention to himself since only he can hear Dimlos speak, as well as possibly Gar. After some running around the town, Ston accidentally runs into an Amazon. Okay, not really, but by God she could be.
Wonder Woman,
This is Mary Argent, age 24, a dark-skinned warrior suffering from amnesia, of course. She doesn't remember her dark past, and has no goals or ambitions. She is very imposing with her stature. She is wild in battle, but outside of it often gets lost in conversations and is easily distracted by very irrelevant things. Upon the conclusion of any battle, Mary reverts to her subdued nature, perplexing others with her drastic shift in personality.
Ston asks her what's wrong as she seems to be in a hurry. Mary explains that she's in need for someone to help her. She has a friend that has become trapped in a machine while they were exploring a cavern, and she needs someone else to aid in her escape. Ston, without hesitation, leaps to her aid, and both of them go to the cavern to help Mary's friend. After arriving, Ston quickly learns about Mary's unfortunate companion. This lively woman is Rudy Catre. Age 18, you'll start to notice a pattern, as even she has a very dark past that she doesn't remember too well. As a child, she was left at an orphanage in Cresta. To escape a terrible fate as she grew older, she started to take pity on kids who, like her, were forced to grow up without parents. From there, she took it upon herself as a sense of duty to the orphanage who raised her to get rich by any means she could in order to survive. So there she became a mercenary to hunt Lens.
After the introductions, Mary and Ston set Rudy free, but suddenly get attacked by guards. Forced into the fight, Ston and the two fight them off and then make their way back to the pub to explain things. Figuring that Ston has a swordian, Rudy shows that she too carries one as well. The swordian of water, Atwite. Atwite is the kind and resourceful one, eager to speak her opinion, but is also the calming one amongst heated situations. She, in life, was in love with Dimlos before things went south, and trust me, the irony of these two being the bearers of these lovers will become obvious soon. In short, Atwite was dawned by Rudy at a young age when her mother charged Atwite to keep watch over her. Mary is at odds ends, since she is unable to hear the Swordian's voices, being not a bearer and all. Yet Dimlos and Atwite believe it must be destiny that they've run into each other, and each agree to stick together for the time being in order to get to each own destination. Meanwhile, Ston and Rudy will continue to bicker with each other like an old married couple.
The next morning, Rudy leads the gang to the village of hermits. Where she wants to deliver an old cane to a client named Walt, who lives in a mansion, after taking $5 grand for it. When you know it, Rudy isn't satisfied and pretty much robs the man in front of everyone. Extremely infuriated, he revealed that he made accommodations for the group to stay at the local inn. Rudy continues to take advantage of the man and forces Ston and Mary to join her at the inn. Unfortunately, that turns out to be a terrible mistake, as when the next morning comes around, crap hits the fan. Hard, and the group is ambushed by the guards from the capital. Their job is to bring the three in. Things look like they're going very well for the group until...
Oh no!
This bundle of joy is Leon Magnus, a very privileged son of a whose proud pastime is training and fencing, while enjoying words of wisdom, while trying to use a cool personality. His major flaw, though, is without a doubt his overconfidence, and well, is there a kind, redeemable person underneath this 16-year-old exterior? You be the judge. Oh, and look, he has a swordian too. How convenient. He openly mocks how poor his soldiers are and obliges to take care of the mess himself. Needless to say, Rudy is easily offended by this and demands this kid's arse get kicked. Leon engages all three of them at once, and well, what do you know? It doesn't go so well for him at all. This little guy proceeded to get his big mouth tossed around the battlefield like a football being fumbled.
Rudy, Ston, and Mary kill the little guy, making their daring escape, and actually have a promising future, becoming the world's greatest treasure hunters, lens collectors, and thieves. It's not the life Ston wanted, but that's the cards that he was dealt.
And game over. That's it. Job well done. Back to the main menu. What happens to these three on their greatest adventures? Well, that's anyone's guess. Come back next time, and you may just find out what really happened.
In the meantime, feel free to subscribe for more videos from the Brotherhood of Gaming, and of course, the Tales of Retrospective.